I'm really happy that you all are here for me and for the other speakers and for yourself. Okay, so I don't know why I actually made this PPT because I don't really need it. So I'll just switch it off. Now, that is the first thing about public speaking. If you don't need something to show, bullet points, PPTs, whatever, then just don't use it. That's the first point. Rely on yourself and believe in yourself that, yeah, you can convey the point away without any pictures unless very necessarily required. Okay, so as Ranjani pointed out, that she's envious of people who can speak very comfortably and are like naturals on stage. I would say that I remember a moment in my school where I was speaking on stage, and I used to have a skirt for uniform. So I was scared that the audience might just see my legs trembling because when I was on stage, I was speaking properly, but I was shaking. My hands were sweating, but somehow it didn't show up in my speech. So that was good. But nervousness is very normal. I'm still nervous. I was still uh, flanking around, ki, oh my God, how many people are going to be there? How am I going to speak? But I'm sure that being virtually there as a speaker is still much better than being in person. And so that is again one point. So, like right now, you cannot see that I'm fidgeting or I'm just shaking my legs or something. That really helps us when we are there virtually. But when you're on stage, when you're speaking in front of an audience, and let's say you don't have a podium in front of you, then what do? Some people tend to move around a lot. Some people tend to stay. Some people tend to just look at their background, their PPT, or some people tend to make eye contact. So, can you tell of out of these options, which person would actually capture your attention? Can someone answer that?
The one who's making eye contact, I guess.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Your voice is very feeble.
The one who's making eye contact.
Right. So, and why do we want a person to make eye contact? Because it would feel like they're talking to us, they're making a conversation with us. It's very personal. They're wanting to convey us a specific message. So that is the importance of making an eye contact, making a conversation with your audience. And depending on the topic that you have, let's say you're going for a scientific presentation, then if the audience includes children, then you will include activities and you will try to convey the concepts in the simplest way possible. So let's say I was there for LIGO India outreach program, and I had conducted a talk in a school. So that would be very silly, but I would like to demonstrate how it goes. So you know that gravitational waves stretches and squeezes time, right? Because all of you are from SEDS Nebula, so I thought this is a relevant example. So, how I told them to imagine this was that you just go with your mouth, ooh, ee, ooh, ee. That's what gravitational waves does with time. It stretches and then squeezes. Ooh, ee. And they had a lot of fun, and I made a good fool of myself, but I was still happy about that. So, depending on the audience, you can use different examples. So, I remember that one person, there were multiple presentations there, but one person was going very theoretical and people were just listening. It was like a lecture. So, of course, when you're giving a specific talk, you want to go beyond what any classroom teacher could do. I really hope that classroom teaching also gets better. But then, if you are a speaker, if you're a special speaker for an occasion, they definitely would expect you to bring out something. And there was another talk in that same session wherein there was no lecture, there was no conceptual understanding, just using like things like newspaper or literally aloo pyaz and putting it on a dupatta and showing how the ripples in the gravitational waves are made, where dupatta is the fabric of space time. Hashtag extremely relatable, right? So you have to make such things. And if you've noticed, I'm sure like everyone has seen TED Talks. So I remember watching a TED Talk where the person was shaking, like her voice was shaking, but she was still speaking. And I really like to read comments on videos because I really want to see how other people feel about the videos that they're watching. So many, I think almost all the comments were very supportive. They were supporting her that even though she's so nervous, she's still speaking and her points were very good. So that counts out. So even in the TED talk, when that person looks back at her own video, she would be like, oh shit, what was I doing? Why was I so nervous? But then I think that people don't really want to make fun of you. There will be some idiots, don't care about them, but people are supportive. So first of all, you have to keep this in mind that you're not going to be a piece of entertainment and people are going to support you. So don't assume at the first place that you're going to be made fun of. I think that thing is the most important because we tend to get more anxious than anybody cares really. So if you're coming on the stage, again, as Ranjani said, they might be actually envious of you that you have the courage to do that at the first place. So you should think about that maybe being there on the stage, you can actually inspire somebody and not get scared that you will get made fun of. Because I think people make fun of things that they don't really have the courage to do themselves. So that is all right. Okay, so and if you're depending on the topic again, you should try to connect to people in a personal manner. Like I'm telling you my own experiences, and I'm trying to engage in a conversation here. So I'm trying to make this as personal as possible. And that's why I asked not to be called ma'am also, first of all, because I'm an undergraduate, please. मुझे इतना बुढ़ा feel मत कराओ अभी से. And secondly, because I know that me, since you know that I am of the same age and I can do that, so you can also do that. And this is a conversation and not a talk because I believe that the talk would really formalize it. And I'm just telling you that, hey, dude, because I did it, you can also do that. We can just help each other out. So, one more important thing is that you should be open to taking feedback. Let's say you went on stage, you followed each points by the book. Okay, look at your posture, look, make eye contact and stuff. But then also somebody says, "Yaar, maza nahi aaya," or whatever. I didn't really connect with what you were saying. Take their feedback because they are your audience, and it's up to you if you want to call it constructive criticism or just criticism, because you can always have a filter, right? You can always know. So let's say that you were having a headache, and that same day you had to give a talk. So that's why you know that because of this specific situation, I could not perform my best today. And if someone says, no, yeah, you're not a good speaker. So you should have a filter where you know what's your personal situation like, and then you filter it out that, okay, this was the reason, but I know that I'm a good speaker I'm a good enough speaker. But you should always be open to feedback like that because you might definitely get in uh, good points that you never thought of. Because when you're on stage, you're so focused on the content that you're speaking. You're also focused on how people are looking at you, or is anybody yawning, are everybody like attentive. So so you don't really know how it seems from an audience's perspective. It might be that you're speaking something very inspirational, but you're so nervous that you're just speaking it like, oh yeah, you should do that, or you should do that. So the audience might say, dude, when you're not sure, how can I be sure of what to do? Because when you're telling me something, I need to be convinced. You have to like give me that inspiration. If you are not inspired yourself, how will I do? So I think a good example here would be a salesperson, right? You can I am actually very surprised by how salespeople have so much confidence. I really respect them because they will be selling shitty products, but with so much inspiration and so much excitement that you'll be like, "Nahi yaar, I have to buy this, else my life is nothing without this product." And when you buy it, you will feel like, "What the heck did I just do?" Because that is the power of like captivating, if I must say. So you should believe in what you're saying first yourself. Of course you should fact check. Aisa nahi ki you're telling galat facts. If you're just talking about something very specific that has facts and figures, you should be completely sure of that. You should cite those facts, cite anything that you're using in your, I'm saying citing because that is especially important in a scientific presentation, that you should cite anything and everything that you're using. Even if someone said something specific, you have to say, you have to give credit, because that will give your audience confidence that you can of course use other people's sources and use other people's words, but you can always put a label on it. So it's literally like plagiarism. So it'll give your audience confidence that I am allowed to use whatever I want. I don't have to make the presentation or my talk 100% of my own. I can always be taking points from here and there and strengthen my talk, my presentation. And just because I can cite it, just because I can give the person a credit. Okay, so since I spoke about emotional expressions, uh, I want to do a fun activity. I need two volunteers. In the
Sure,
morning,
yeah.
now you can volunteer also.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I'll volunteer.
And another one, Ayush.
Okay.
Okay, so I want Ayush to frame a sentence, any sentence, and choose a mood: angry, sad, frustrated, inspired, whatever.
Okay. So Nilav is a hardworking student in an inspired mood.
Okay, so Nilav, you have to say this in an inspired way. The same sentence. Just show the inspiration through your
Yeah,
expression, through your
expressions.
speaking.
Yeah, got you. Um, Whenever I work with Ayush, I'm inspired by his creative acumen.
Okay, now say this by being angry.
See, the same idea, like
Yeah,
creative acumen and angry. Okay.
yeah.
Um, I despise Ayush's creativity. So
Very
that's
nice.
what.
Not through words
Okay.
though. The same simple
Expression.
sentence
Yeah.
through your expressions.
Okay, that's
Like
hard.
you're protesting something.
Okay.
Wow, he's
Um,
protesting that he's hardworking. Very nice. But yeah.
I completely despise Ayush's creative acumen. Now, does that work?
Can you try, Ayush? Like be angry and say that.
I, okay. So I I think the Nilav is a really hardworking student. I think. I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, even though he said hardworking, I was doubting for a minute. Like, what was that? So, so what did you notice in Ayush's body language? Like he was pointing out. He
Yeah,
was being
pointing out. Yeah.
like this.
Yeah.
He was trying to evoke a point. Like, nahi, he's
Yeah.
hardworking, but he's in like that. So that's I think really important, because as I said that you tend to get nervous on stage, so you kind of don't realize how you're looking to the audience. So that's why you should practice doing such things. You should literally practice acting, I guess, like saying same sentences in different kind of emotions and having control over what you can control. You cannot control your audience's reaction. You cannot control how will they feel, because it might be possible that we're in a lecture hall and the ACs are off. Sorry, and the it's just hot, the seats are very uncomfortable, so it might not be your fault. Your talk might be really interesting and intriguing, but the audience might be really distracted because they're just not feeling comfortable, their bums are hurting or something like that. So that's why you should you should really know what you're doing on stage, and that would be good for yourself also, because of course you can make it clear to yourself that yeah, nothing that I saw over the audience's faces was because of me or because of my talk. Because once you start to get like a little demotivated or unconfident, it would show up in your next talks. So that's why you need to be sure yourself that you are doing your best. So, okay. Now, so how can you come up with impromptu conversations, right? So I would say that I wrote down some points that I wanted to talk today, but I didn't really prepare anything. So what can you do when you have? So anyone has done in the school? What was that called? Jam, just a minute. Those competitions, like you're given a topic and then you're given a minute to prepare and a minute to speak or something like that. I used to be shit scared. I never did that in school. I always went for prepared speeches or whatever. I never did that. And I still won't do that. I still need some preparation. I can speak, but yeah, I still need some points to speak or whatever, some pre-preparation. So I think I really, I envy those people who can come up with topics all the time and they can speak on things. So I think one thing that has really helped me is practicing, okay, not practicing, but conversing with my friends about different topics on spot. So like we would bring up a topic like politics or life, philosophy, careers, because that's what we do in the last year of undergraduate. And we just talk about it. We just share facts with each other, what we saw. And because you're talking to your friends and because you're telling them something that they haven't really seen before, let's say they haven't really seen a news article that I'm talking about. So I need to summarize it very well so that I'm telling them that okay, this is what the news article had. This is my unbiased view on it. Like this is not what I think about the news article, but what was stated, what was the message that the news article wanted to convey. And now this is my biased view on it. So you should be able to distinguish between these three things and put it in a very concise way. Because if you start narrating the news article, they'll be like, yeah, link bhejte. I'll just read it myself. So I think you should try to share more topics with your friends like that, wherein you get to summarize things, wherein you get to give your unbiased view on the article and your biased view, because there is a very clear distinction between it, which you need to understand for yourself. Because there might be some speeches wherein not a debate, because debate has a clear for and against. But if you're giving a speech that is very neutral, where you tell in all the points and then you summarize. So when you're speaking about something, at least you should be clear what is your own view and what are the views of the authors from whom you have taken the content or something. Because you cannot say that okay, my view is what is the author. If you agree with them, you can of course say that yes, I agree with what the author says. But as an individual, for your own individuality, you should know what your own personal views are. And to think about that also, you should take your time, and that's why you should share it with your friends, because that really helps in framing sentences, in summarizing things. And then yeah, I feel like this is a really good example, because you never really realize until you're in conversations as such that you, even like a meme, nobody likes people to understand memes, but if you have a friend that needs to understand memes, then you have to tell them a little bit of history also, where the meme came from. So you should be able to summarize everything nicely. So another small activity with that, I'll have to go to the presentation for this because I need to. Just one second. Okay, first of all, another volunteer. Someone except Ayush and Nilab. Someone who's up for just a minute kind of an activity. And it's all Seth Nebula members, so it's okay. Like anyone can come up.
It's visible.
Yeah, okay. Okay, now look at this image and you have 1 minute, and then you have to describe this image in whatever you think about this image for another minute. So I'll just start the timer. 1 second.
Oh, can I start?
Yeah.
Okay. This is a poster of the movie Joker. I haven't watched this movie, but I've heard a lot of things about this. I've heard from many people saying that it's a pretty good movie and all. One more thing that makes me feel that this is a really good movie is that one of my favorite movie directors had put this in his story, saying that this is his favorite movie. I think I had seen only the beginning of it, and I think this is all set in New York. I'm again not 100% sure of it, but I'm 60% sure that it's set in New York. And I think it's something to do with the way of life, and I think it's something to do with it. But I'm yet to watch this movie. It's on my watch list. I don't know what.
Okay,
else,
stop.
because I haven't watched this movie.
Okay, done. So I really liked it. So he like told कि अच्छा what director has made this movie, where is this setup, and what does he think is going on in the scene. So he covered up all points, but I'm really disappointed that you haven't watched Joker. You have to like literally just tick it off your watch list as soon as possible.
I'm watching Friends now, so
Okay. Okay. So this was nice, but can someone else, not having the context that this is a movie, summarize this picture like a story, whatever is going on? Be creative with it. Fake it as much as possible.
Okay, so
Hi.
can I give it a try?
Okay, so let me just start the time. I don't know when I see this pose. I mean, this is very lame, but a Bharati dancing comes into my mind for some reason. Okay, start.
Okay, so I think this is a take on the modern society with the modern man or woman being given different opportunities. You can see the ladders there, but it's very frustrating to climb up. And the person, he has a fake smile on. So basically, it's a representation of how a person is supposed to smile all the time and feel happy and jolly and good, but it's very depressing at the same time because you can see a goal up there, but you also know it's very hard to climb up. Then I think these are spikes on the side of the pavement, and this is a representation of all the things, the dangers that you may face when you're climbing up the ladder. Um, and colors, I feel, is just a representation of all the different emotions that a person has.
Okay, stop.
Yes, that's it.
I really like this. That was very, very nice. Yeah, Ayush has raised his hand.
Yeah, actually, hi Shreya. Uh,
Hi.
so, so I have also not seen the movie, but like, if I see the photo, I just came to an idea like a background, like a background song is playing like Binding Lights song. So,
Right.
one thing that just comes into my mind is the man is just relaxed and like he doesn't care about the society and is like has overcome the fear of being judged and it's like the dance is just showing that he has overcome the judgment thing of the society. He has
Yeah,
painted his face and like he doesn't care about anything and he's just living his life.
right. That's very nice. Doesn't give an F kind of mood.
Yeah, yeah, right.
So, did you enjoy talking about this? Did you enjoy putting out your view and what you think of the image? That is like in a movie, but you can have interpretations of it by yourself.
Yes, I think like what we feel, we represent what we feel. So if we see something, it's our feelings. So I
Right.
think
Right. So I think that's the importance of giving your audience the stage as well. You can say what you feel about this. We know that this is the Joker movie, but then we can have our own interpretations about it. And that is one way of knowing your audience as well, that you give them space to speak what they feel about the topic. This
and
is also another level of connecting with your audience on a personal level, having a conversation with them. So you can have fun together so that they don't feel excluded and they don't feel like you're the person on the stage and they're the person sitting down. Because I think that's one very important point of not making people around you feel like um, the discouragement that being on stage is something very difficult or something.
and I
Being
think
on stage is just
sorry.
like being a host of the yeah, Ayush.
Sorry to interrupt, but like one more thing is that if we are discussing something with like showing this photo, there are different perspectives of the same image. So getting different perspectives and like getting the idea through that, we can like make bigger conclusions with something like this.
Right, bigger conclusions on a like a whole audience kind of scale, right, where everyone can come on a concise decision or whatever.
Yes.
Right. So yeah, that's one way of not influencing your audience at the first place, but discussing, and then all of you could come up on a same conclusion, and that would feel everyone included also. That would make them feel that okay, they also had a part in this conversation, and they were not just there to just listen, sit, and take whatever they want to. You want them to remember it. So that's how you make people remember what you say. You engage with them. You take it on a personal level. So I think more about building confidence is definitely you should practice in the mirror. I think that's as usual for actors and speakers. So I remember that once in school I was preparing for a speech, and so I had a teacher who helped me write the speech and stuff. So when I used to practice with her, I used to look at her nose. I was too shy to look into her eyes. And one day, another teacher came in and she was like, "Why is she looking at your nose? Why is she not making eye contact with you?" So my teacher knew me. She said that, you know what, when she'll go to the stage, she'll make the eye contact. So I'm okay with it. So definitely practice with people who know how you work, who can give you constructive criticism, and who believe in you that, yeah, when you're on stage, you will handle it. You would want their, don't take comments from everyone, definitely not. I would say that if you're going approaching people and asking, okay, just tell me what did I do wrong, you definitely want to ask people whom you trust, whose criticism you would respect yourself, because they would be really able to tell you that, you know uh, this is what I didn't found right, or this is what could be better, and they will actually help you also to improve on it. They wouldn't just leave you because they want to let you down or something. Okay, so I guess, yeah, just one more thing, just one last thing. I tend to speak a little fast. I don't know if I did that or not today, but my dad tells me that slow down, I didn't understand what you said. So I think it's very crucial to time how you speak. Of course, you can't stick to time always, but it's very crucial to time how you speak and the speed of your speaking. So you can make emphasis on words, like I emphasize the word emphasis itself. So when you want to give across a point, like Nilab is hard working. I just said hard working, but that was angry, and I made emphasis on that. So you can convey your points by the way you modulate your speech. That is one very important point. So I think I'm done with this. If you have any questions, any comments, then please.
Like, I just have a like general question.
Yeah.
You said about practicing in front of the like mirror, but actually what happens is when I speak, like I speak fluently in front of the mirror and with me alone. But when I come to a stage or a platform, for example, currently I'm using Clubhouse, so it's like I am not so fluent like what I like. I
Right. So
jumble up words, and I basically like people get confused generally when I'm talking.
okay. So first of all, know that it's not a problem. It's normal, and just keep going, because that's how you will get used to it. That's how you'll get better at it. Don't worry at all. Just keep going. Just get any opportunity that you get to speak, and just speak. Second of all, I think is when you're speaking in mirror, you're very familiar with the face that you're looking at. You're very familiar with what's going to come next. So you're comfortable in that zone. So if possible, if you're feeling nervous, then wherever you are, try to find a familiar face. I would say don't try to find your friends because you'll just laugh, but try to find somebody. Like, again, I'll say when I used to go for the speech, so I would try to find the face of my teacher. Of course, not keep looking at her because you have to engage with all of the audience, but just to get the reassurance, try to find a familiar face. And just know again that it's okay. You have to fumble up because you're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. So that's okay.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Any other question or comment? Criticism, please. Or did you enjoy the talk? Like, what did you like? What did you not like? Or do you have any new point to actually give in to everyone?
Well, I definitely enjoy the activities. That's so. That's first. That's 100%. You got to know the truth from Ayush himself. And on the other hand, the question that I had in mind was that how would you arrange your train of thoughts? Now, you yourself said that you like having pre-written a predefined script so that you can rely on it when you're speaking. But how would you organize that? Would you jot down like a usual format, like introduction, content, and conclusion, or would you have talking points and then rebuttals, or see some facts and then just what do you say, improvise on stage? Or
I
what's your
think it's
process?
it definitely depends on the kind of talk that you're giving. If you're giving a scientific talk, then you cannot rely on yourself because that's scientific facts and you have to tell
Exactly.
them, you have to explain them. But if you're talking like in a conversation, it's definitely, I think a part of it is definitely impromptu because whatever comes to your mind. Because if you go by the points that you've written, it would seem very fake. It would seem like, oh, this is just another prepared talk, or I can just find these topics on internet. No, why am I listening to this talk? But that would what would make you unique when you're bringing your personality to the table. If you like making dad jokes, lame jokes, do that. That's you. That's a unique part to you. So it helps me to have a certain structure in mind because um, if I come unprepared to the stage, I'll just go blank. I wouldn't know what to say. And because having bullet points in your head try actually helps you give a structure that okay, this is logically connected to the next point and this is logically connected to the next point. Now how I transition from one point to next, maybe on a personal level, maybe by having a conversation, maybe by giving an example, is up to me.
It's up to you.
That's up to me to decide.
So your personal style matters a lot.
Definitely, that's what makes you. So have you heard of Toastmasters?
I've heard of it, but I'm
Yeah,
not sure.
so
I can't recall. Yeah.
people over there, it's just for speaking. I know of it, I'm not in it, but they have many sessions like 1 minute prepared speeches, then impromptu speeches, and then discussion of topics, something like that. So they also, what was my point? That happens in, I forget. So if I don't prepare, I'll just start with something and I forget. I really forgot, like why did I start talking about Toastmasters? I don't remember. Okay. The Yeah, that can be embarrassing, no, but it's okay because I know that this happens and it's all right. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Hello, Didi.
Any other question, comment? Yeah.
As we can see now itself that you have forgotten what you wanna say on the topic toast maker, right? So this little things makes us connect to the audience more on a more level. The
Human
audience,
level,
yeah,
personal
yeah,
level.
yeah. So it makes the audience more comfortable than actually giving a jotted down script or anything else.
Right.
Yeah. So we feel connected. These things are not bad actually. One may think he'll go to stage, he'll think that lots of thousands of eye will look on his face, where his hands gonna move, where his mic gonna move. So that things aren't are in our control. So we should not think about that. Yeah,
Right.
I learned that
Exactly.
today.
You should go prepared from your side as best as you can. But
Yeah,
then not everything is in your control. What is in your control is how you present yourself, what you speak. So that's all you
yeah,
should care about.
yeah,
Because people are understanding. Like if the just only if the mic doesn't screech in your ears, everything is okay. People will understand.
yeah. Exactly.
Any other question, comment? Any new point? Like, have you had public speaking experiences, and how was your experience like? We'll just take up one person, and then I think my slot is over, so we'll stop.
Yeah, I want to add something that there was this time in my school in I was in 12th grade and I had a experience of public speaking. So I was not nervous and but some thing happened that I was taking a questionnaire round that people understood me or not. So I was asking them that what you feel about it. So there are some people that actually want to ruin your presentation or your performance. They really want to. They ask questions, they act like they want to. So there was this guy, so he completely, made me nervous and stuff. So my train of thought was actually derailed. So
Hmm.
I was nervous and I didn't know what to say, but my friends were there, my teachers were there, so they told me, Ayush, hold on. So that's a situation that people sometimes want to ruin your presentation, what you're doing.
Right. I think that's a very important point. I wanted to mention this, but I forgot that if you don't know anything, if you forgot something, or if you just need a minute to just recollect your thoughts, you can just say it. That I might need a minute to answer this, or I don't know the answer to this. I'll get back to you, or maybe we can look at it together or something. Depending on the person that you're talking to, you can always tell them that you don't know, because if you give a wrong answer, that will be worse than just saying that I don't know, maybe I'll look at it later. Even if, like, you ask, so you attend lectures, online lectures and stuff, right? So if you ask somebody something, they would tell you that this is not my area of expertise, but I think this of this topic, I think this might be the answer, but I'm not sure. You'll have to ask this and this professor. So it's definitely okay to say that you don't know anything, or that you can refer to this, refer to that, or maybe we can look at it together. So again, this is another way of involving your audience. But yeah, you should expect that there can be people like that sometimes, but you should definitely prepare for that. I'm sure, like, after that, you were like, okay, I might find people like that who
Yeah,
might make me feel nervous or something, so you're ready for that.
yeah.
Welcome to another interesting session of the event. The best way to predict the future is to create it. An entrepreneur plays a key role in any economy using the skills and initiative necessary to anticipate needs and bring in good new ideas to market. Today, we SETS members are so lucky to have a successful entrepreneur, Mr. Sunny Kabrawala, who is the founder and director of Star Labs, which is a space and education research-based startup that believes space is for everyone. He's also a renowned speaker at TEDx. We are so eager to hear from you, sir.
Topic for today is entrepreneurship, and this is a very what we can call it's a very deep topic to be discussed. What I would like to do is I would like to actually keep this session interactive. I entered and Shia is here. I know her and she's doing amazing work. I saw her interacting with students. I thought, let's skip this session as well, rather than me speaking and telling just about what I have done so far. I would like to know from you what things you want to know, and I would like to get questions from you. If you want to know about my journey, if you want to know about anything that I have gone through, you can ask me specific questions. I'll definitely share, uh, my journey. But like, I would like to, ask you people like any question you have got. Let's start from the question itself. Who would like to go first?
Hello, Sunny sir.
Uh,
Uh,
Hi, Naman.
so I would like to know how you started your the Star Lab actually.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll say that. First of all, guys, you don't need to call me sir. You can call me Sunny. Okay, it's fine. You don't need to call me sir. So I started Star in the year 2015 as a rocket club in my college campus. So most of us in our childhood might have got fascinated by space. Most of us, right? What happened is when we grow up, we tend to compromise on our dream of becoming space pilot just because we don't get enough opportunities or enough, guidance for that. But things were different for me. I always wanted to build my career into this, and but I didn't get opportunity into aerospace engineering college. Now we believe that to be into space industry we need to do aerospace, which is a wrong perspective, wrong thinking. I used to have that. So only thought that came in my mind is that now I am in a local college. We don't have anything related to space here, so let's start a rocket club. So I was an introvert at that time. I started a rocket club. We started flying model rockets, and things were really going well. One day we were sitting in garden, like we didn't have a working place, so we used to operate from a garden. So we were sitting there, and we saw that there were a few kids who were 12 to 14 years old. They were sitting next to us, and they were actually discussing, like they were listening us while we were discussing about rockets, and they were giving ideas. So we realized one thing, that the term rocket science is overhyped. You might have heard about this phrase, there is no rocket science in this. How many of you heard about this? I also heard in my childhood, and whenever we listen to this, we think that that task is really easy to do. It's not rocket science. But then I realized that rocket science is not the rocket science. Anyone can understand, anyone can learn it. And one more realization I got is, we believe that rockets, they are difficult, and that is why less people are working in it, in this industry. But the fact is, just because less people are working in this industry, rockets are still complicated and they are difficult. So we need to have more and more people working in this industry at the university and the school level. So we thought of having a space education and research based startup, which would not only give theoretical knowledge, but would give opportunity to students to build and launch rockets. And so far, and that is how I got the idea. 2015, it was a club. 2018, we got incorporated as a private limited company. And so far, we have launched 60 plus high powered rockets successfully and trained 18,000 plus students across the world. So right now, we have students from 18 plus countries. So imagine there was a time when people are going outside for masters in aerospace, but we are trying to bring people from other countries to our country to do their internship in aerospace. So that's the vision we have got, to make space accessible for everyone and easier for people who are living in our own country.
Thank you, sir. So thank you, Sunny. It was a thoughtful one, and it was a good one though that you started the Star Lab.
Pleasure. Who'll go next?
I have a question.
Yeah, please ask.
A little unrelated, but I think it'll help everyone. How nervous do you get before all of your talks? Because you are in a habit of doing this, but still, how nervous do you get?
So I don't remember. I read somewhere. Uh, Nervousness and excitement both are similar. It's only when how you take it. So like before talks, I get super excited. I like interacting with students. Right now, I've kept my energy low just because there are startups who are here present here. So otherwise, I actually speak very loudly when I'm interacting because of my excitement level. Now, the only one thing I think of before I go for a talk, or I do anything, or I do any interaction with students, is what all queries they have got in their mind. I can answer based on my experience, and if I have no answer, what I can do is I can ask them to get connected to me offline, and so that I can do some research and get back to them after a few days. But my only my only aim is to answer the questions, and they should learn something. That's it. So I get super excited while being there into any session. Especially I can see very known faces here, so I'm not at all I'm not at all nervous right now. Who'll go next?
Hi, I have a question. So, like many students in college, or if they are doing the college, they get an idea of a product or service, but they can't implement it. Okay, if they implement it, but they are not able to sell it. So how we will able to sell or market our because we need a team of founders, co-founders, and uh, digital marketing and everything. So how to scale up business, if that is in your head or something?
What a wonderful question. I would like to ask you, okay, what is the first step to do a startup?
Like a good idea or a good business plan.
And this is why you cannot implement or take your startups ahead, or you cannot run a startup for years and years. We start with an idea. Never start with an idea. Start with a problem. What we do is, most of the startup success stories, if you have ever heard, or any story of a company that have been running into multiple countries right now, all got started with the problem. First, you have to actually get introduced to a problem. You have to feel it, you have to experience it, and then you come up with a solution. When you have an empathy, you get a purpose. So I'll talk about two things which sounds philosophical, but that have to be there into your practical life. The first one is the passion. You have to figure out what you are good at, right? or what you really like to do, right? Now, there's a difference between passion and interest. Okay, so I know that many people will be saying that we get interested in multiple things, but see, interest is like a crush which keeps on changing, but passion is like a wife that remains one. Now, when you have a fight with your wife, you won't leave her. और अगर husband के साथ झगड़ा हो गया आप छोड़ नहीं दोगे. What you do is you sit with them, you talk, you interact, you figure out the problem, you come up with a solution, but you stay together. And that happens with your work. When you're just interested, you'll leave it when you'll face struggles. But when you're really passionate and you have a very strong purpose of starting it, you'll actually, think of being there forever, and you will work. And one more, thing I posted recently on social media, I heard from a student. He said that I want to do a startup just because I don't want to work under someone's, leadership, or I want to be my own boss. To be very honest, entrepreneurs, they work for others. They never work for themselves. Second, for in a job, you'll have one boss. In entrepreneurship, you have thousands of boss that are customers. They'll be constantly putting pressure on you for giving the best service you can give, right? So start with the problem and get your passion and purpose very clear. You'll never quit. I hope that makes sense, Ayush.
Yes, got it. Thank you so
Sorry
much.
if I am sounding like a motivational speaker, because after engineering, whether a person becomes an engineer or not, वो motivational speaker बन जाता है, but मैं नहीं हूँ, sorry. Yeah. Questions?
Hi, Sunny. Ashutosh here. So, I would like to ask, what kind of difficulties do you face, like, while establishing Star Labs? Was there any kind of difficulties? You must have faced some, I guess.
I'm still facing a lot of difficulties every day, in fact. And when I say this, I mean it. So thing is, when we got started, we could see where we want to go, but we could not see how we want to go. So it was very difficult for us. And initially what we do is when we start, we actually make a roadmap. We create a lot of plans. One thing we realized is roadmaps are just for, giving hope to yourself. It's never going to work. And it's fine it's not working, because you plan out something for 2 to 3 years, but in 2 to 3 years you'll have a lot of innovations coming and a lot of challenges coming that you might have never thought of, like pandemic. We never thought the pandemic would come in the 5 years and we would have to get shift online, right? So thing is, what I always say is, in startup journey you should be very clear where you want to go. Like I want to travel from Surat to Ahmedabad. Ahmedabad is my destination. 400 kilometers journey. But while I am starting my journey, my trip from Surat, will my car's headlight will be going for or falling for the 400 kilometers road? No, my car headlight can only cover 2 meters or 3 meters of the distance. But with that 2 or 3 meters of the vision, I complete a journey of 400 kilometers. Getting my point, right? आपका हेडलाइट तो
Yes.
2-3 मीटर ही जाता है ना, 400 किलोमीटर ही जाएगा, बट स्टिल वो 2 या 3 मीटर का विजन से यू कंप्लीट योर जर्नी. Why it's possible? What I mean to say is, you need to have a end goal or a vision, but you need to plan small term goals as well. They are very important. 3 months, 6 months, 1 year targets. And by targets, I don't mean your revenue. By targets, I mean what kind of innovation you want to build in your product or service or your processes. What are new things you want to implement? How you want to build processes which can improve the skills of your team members. What all new leaders you want on board. You have to fix all things for different quarters, and then you have to achieve it quarter by quarter, and that is how you reach to the destination. Second, I don't know whether you know about this theory of infinite games. Startup is not, or business is not a finite game. Can you tell me, when can you call that your startup is successful? Anyone can try. When can you call your startup a successful startup?
I guess when you get established in a way where you have customers and you actually get to people, like you can actually go for training of people. You can actually contact with your team along with you can actually know what the market is,
Okay.
right?
Yeah. In your area, there might be, or in your near your college campus, there might be a tapri wala, chai ka tapri. He might be getting good amount of customers, right? We call him successful. No, right? We don't call those people successful. They're getting customers, right? There is nothing like success and failures in the world of startups. There are only survivors. The only objective for you is to keep surviving every day. That's it, and to keep serving people. Yes, yeah.
So, when you said what is success for a startup, what came into my mind is somehow related to what you said. For me, if it's in a team, I think success would be when you're failing, but all the team comes up again and says, "No, we're gonna do it."
Very true, very true. That is what we want in startup, right? We want, like, if we die, there should be someone in our team who can take our vision forward, and then you can continue. We want someone in team that if we fail, there should be a person who should come and say that, I want to take this ahead and I'll make it, a big company. So that should be our vision. So don't start up just because you want to be successful. All those things are, outcome. Even Star is not a successful company right now. What we do is we keep striving to build new and new products and serving people, and we cannot call ourselves successful at any point because that won't make any sense. The only goal for us is to keep building the leadership boards, so that in future, if something happens to core team members, there should be some other members who can take over and who can, lead the company. And that is what we do right now. We give opportunities to the freshers to lead the departments, and that is how we're building leadership culture in our company as well. So yeah, it's very important, and every startup should, work in, building leaders in within the team. It's not that you, because you're a founder, you need to be CEO, CXOs. You should give opportunity to people who actually deserve it.
Okay, so I guess I have one more doubt. See, I I guess you have faced some kind of ups and downs while establishing Star Labs, right? So while establishing the ups and downs, you will be delighted when you are at an up phase in the market, or you are at the peak of something. But when you go down, how you get your team motivated? Like in Sets Nebula, right now we have certain teams, and yeah, we have a time where we can actually get to work, and there's a time when we are facing some kind of troubles with coordinating. So how you actually get motivated with the things? How you actually motivate your group members? Is it a big task, or you do it easily?
A good question. It's never going to be easy. Never going to be easy. Okay, mind this. Like, even big companies, even having big, HRs, they are not able to do this. It's when humans are working, and when there is a involvement of psychology, this problem is always going to be there. Everyone have different mindset, different thoughts, different, thinking process, and everything different, like different culture many times. So this is going to be there, and this will be there till, we get robots in the company, and that's not going to happen. We have humans who will be working, right? And जहाँ पे इंसान होगा वहाँ पे ये सब होना ही है, इसीलिए तो हमारे कंट्री में बिग बॉस जैसे शो भी चलते हैं, राइट?
True.
राइट, तो ये होना ही है. The only thing is, what you should inculcate in your team member is, when you care for your team members future, they will start caring for your company's future. Now when you start, just a minute. So they start, thinking about the company's future. Now the thing is, whenever, like, let's say that I and Ashutosh, we both were talking about some idea, and then you got an idea, and I think that my idea should be implemented. But what we'll do is, to save our self respect, we only, force someone to implement our idea. But when you are actually caring about the company, we will actually see which of the ideas is more, convenient for the company's growth, and we'll take decisions accordingly. So you have to focus on first, that is, creating a culture where you actually can discuss a lot of things, and you keep meeting. Second, don't only organize meetings where, you talk technical things about the startups or about your club or about the activities. Also conduct meetings where talking about, some fun things. You can play online games, you can have offline games. That is what we do. We used to do, children day at Star. We used to conduct a lot of, like, even on Sundays we do a lot of, activities at Star. Even not only Sundays, we do it every day. After lunch we actually play a lot of games. and that can be for fun, and it can also be for skill development. So you have to do that. Third, you have to, uh, ensure that you take care of the family of your team members. So I know during the pandemic, most of the companies, they have, uh, they have performed layoffs. Many got unemployed, and they were just removed out of the company just because company was not having any revenue now, but their boards were still taking full salaries. And that again doesn't make any sense. What you have to do is you have to ensure that if we are there together in success, even when we fail, we will be together. And how it can happen is when your board members decide that I won't take the full salary, what we'll do is everyone will get 70% salary, I'll take 50% salary. Now just see how what kind of trust team members will get on the management. They'll know that if something goes wrong, these people are there to take care of my family. So when everything is right, I need to take care of the company. So you have to build that culture, and it's a never ending process. Because Ashutosh, I hope you asked the question, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yeah.
Yeah, so the thing is, it is never ending process just because you'll keep getting new and new team members after some duration. So even if you set one process for maintaining culture, you'll have a person with a different mindset again in a team. So you have to ensure how you can keep these relations going every day, and that is what we do at Star. It's a tough job, very difficult, but we have to do it every day.
Okay, thank you. I guess Ayush and others, do you have any question?
Yes, I have a doubt. If we are if you started your startup and you said that giving value to the employees and giving value to the people is very important. So, but many people have just they don't they create such type of thing that we can't trust them. So, how do you handle them? Like
Can you be in a relationship without a trust?
Yes, because initially, if we are starting something, we want team members.
Yeah.
So how to get those team members which are uh, really passionate about what you are starting with
Okay.
and does not create a after problem after that.
Okay. Okay. So Ayush, I don't know. Like you have a best friend or someone in your life? Personal question this is, I know, but still, yes or no?
Yeah,
You have someone whom you trust.
many friends, but
Do you have someone whom you trust?
yes,
Okay.
like my
You have,
parents.
okay. Yeah, your parents. Can you tell me a day from which you start trusting them? A specific
Uh,
day.
like after 15 or 16
You, you,
years when I
okay.
realized that when I came to a consciousness that I exist, my parents are doing well for me, and
Oh,
that
you got conscious about that at that age, right? Any specific
yes,
date? Any specific date you remember? No, right? The thing is, this is a long-term process again. Building trust and building a good relationship with team members is a long-term process. If I tell you I trust you, will that prove anything? No. This can only be proved when you actually see it. And how can you see it when your startup is in tough phase? So what you do is you actually get people on board, and if you just keep on interviewing just to know whether they're trustworthy or not, that will not make any sense. The only thing you can do is you can have to take them on board, and when your company is going through the tough phase or difficult times, if they have started looking for a backup, if they think that I should do master so that if company is not doing well, so that I can get a job, that person is not trustworthy, because he's keeping backup from him for himself and not thinking of the whole team. It's like you are there in a common ship, and ship is going to actually get sink, and that person is looking for a backup from himself and not worrying about others.
yes, because I just asked this thing because some people are just acting for money and just they are wanting money and everything, so they just join you because of something so I
That will
just want.
happen. Yeah, that will definitely happen. Okay, that will definitely happen. But as a founder, you have to be very clear in the beginning that we won't be able to pay you for 2 years, 3 years. you have to be clear. If you just show them the vision that, after 6 months we will be having a revenue of 1 lakh per month and we will be paying you 10,000, he will definitely have a hope. He or she will definitely have a hope, and they will expect that amount from you because you gave that statement and the hope. So don't do that. Show them the real picture, and based on that, take them on board. So if I tell you that if you join my new venture, if I cannot pay you for 3 years, and if you join, I know that you already know the reality, and you have opted on your own to face this challenge of working there without salary for 3 years, right? And when the person is working with you for 1 month, 2 months, he or she will definitely get to know that whether it's going to be 3 years or 5 years, because they are operating with you, they are into the picture with you, so they'll get to know. But you have to show them the reality and that's how you build trust, right? Otherwise, if you just lie to them, they will definitely lie back in future.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hi, Sunny. I have two questions.
Yeah, please ask.
Yeah. So my first question was that, say I'm starting a startup, like beginning, I have a problem that I want to solve, have a group of friends who are passionate about it, but obviously there'll be a question of capital, right? The initial money that you need to go to the next step or actually take the first step. So, according to your experience, how important would a pitch deck, excuse me, how important would a pitch deck be to a potential investor? That's the first question. The second one would be, is that in your experience, what do you think a startup should accomplish in, say, in the first 6 months?
Okay, when you just started, your founding team is your pitch deck. You cannot have slides. Okay,
You
slides
cannot
need
ask
to have
that.
figures. You don't have figures because you just started off, right? So capital comes into picture later on. So a very general advice I would give for any startup or any aspiring entrepreneur is never go for investment in the very first year of your journey. You will not be able to justify investors money, and there are many reasons. I'll tell you. Okay, this is going to be a bit long. I won't take like more than 3 minutes or 4 minutes, but this is very important. Star got started with a 0 rupee investment. We didn't take a single rupee from outside, and we didn't invest our own money. A rupee investment company it is. Now, how we did it is, why we didn't go for the investment is just because it's like there's a young kid and you're just giving a lot of money to him. He won't be able to survive on his own once you stop giving him money. And when the founders they get money, they stop thinking about the strong business strategies. They just keep building product, but they don't know how to sell. They don't know how it is going to be there in the market. You don't build your go-to market strategies. So first thing, you get habituated for getting money. But now imagine a scenario where you have built your beta product and you know that if I have to build an advanced one, I need money. The only way I can get is by selling this. Now you'll build your sales processes. Second, when you get an investor on board, you cannot implement your own leadership or your own decisions. Your decisions will always be influenced by investors' decisions, and that is how you will not be able to implement your vision or your processes, and you will not be able to improve your leadership skills. You are going to be investor driven company at that point, right? Now that is what we don't want, right? So for first 5 years we thought to keep Star as non-funded company, and we have kept it yet. We have not taken a single rupee investment from any venture or anything. So we are purely profitable business. We are doing a very good profit right now. So thing is, but still we looking for to bootstrap it further. So never go for the investment. And one more point, for a starting entrepreneur, the founder, you yourself are the pitch deck. Okay, what I can do is, if you come to me and if you need an investment and if you create a very good pitch deck, what I'll do is I'll just go to your LinkedIn profile. Your LinkedIn profile
Yeah.
will tell me how much passionate you are about your domain, right? So build your profile very strong, okay, and keep networking with people. Build trust amongst the investors by just networking them, and pitch decks are just a formality that everyone have to go through. Otherwise, they have no such importance here. But Shark Tank is coming in India, so you need a pitch deck.
True. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Hey Sunny, I would like to ask a question. My name is Ayush. So I would like to ask about advertising, something that
Yeah.
my company has to offer to the customers. How to, start with advertising? What's the first step?
Okay. Okay. So I don't think advertising should be would be the right word for this. We can go with the branding or marketing. So marketing should be the first word, right? Advertisement is about actually playing one single thing in front of people who don't care about your product. Marketing is something which is important at the initial stage. Now, what do you mean by marketing? So, for example, I have a mobile phone. Let's say if I tell you that this is a mobile phone with this features and you want to buy, and you'll say no. But if I tell you that I know what apps you are using. I know you are a gamer and you use, you play PUBG, and I'll tell you that this mobile phone have a feature that whenever an enemy is there close to you, it will give you some, information about that. You will be able to hold your mobile phone very, smoothly, and then it have got a body which can absorb the sweat if you have got your fingers and the hand while you're playing PUBG, and it can also have a screen which will not affect your eyesight. So a lot of features I'll go through. So basically, first now people talk about features, but before features, you should know what things are bad for you, what things are good for you. All the features I told, but if you don't know what's the importance of them, so mark the first, this is what I always say is the only way to sell something is by not selling it. If you keep selling, no one is going to buy. The only thing you have to do is you have to educate your customers. So whatever post you create on social media, whatever events you go to, try educating them, showing the importance of whatever things you're doing. Do you know about the rule of golden circle?
Mm,
Okay, so those who don't know, golden circle is a theory which is derived by Simon Sinek, and he have done a very good research on why Apple became successful, what Steve Jobs did, and what others failed doing it. So I'll give you an example. Uh, like you are into sales right now, right? Tell me what you do. What sales you do?
I'm a part of the core team in Sets Nebula.
Okay, okay. Sales Nebula. What Sales Nebula does?
Sets Nebula is a club for space development enthusiasts. So what I do
Jayshree, can you mute? Okay, thank you.
what I do in the core department of Sets Nebula is basically the social media promotions and that stuff.
Okay,
That's my
okay,
work in Sets Nebula.
okay. This is how other companies they sell themselves. But now Apple they did something different. Now you told me what you do, right? Very clearly because I asked you. But still, people want to know what you're selling, but never communicate with what. Start with why. Now, like if I was there instead of you, I would have said that there are a lot of students in our college campus who are looking forward for the opportunities in space, but they are not getting opportunities. In the end, they end up compromising their dreams. So I am a person who is responsible to provide them the opportunity through SEDS Nebula platform, where we provide these services to students. And Steve Jobs used to do this. Whenever he used to come on stage, he used to first say that these button phones are really boring. And he used to, focus a lot on problem. Start with why. People doesn't care what you're selling, they only care why you're selling. This is what golden circle rule is all about. So always focus on why, and that is what your marketing strategy should be. Tell people why you're doing this, and then they'll come to you. So हमेशा और जब पेन पॉइंट पकड़ते हैं ना उनका दर्द उनको फील होता है एम्पैथी एंड दिस इज व्हाई इंडियन सीरियल्स दे आर वर्किंग वेरी गुड दर्द ही दर्द दिखाते वो लोग ठीक है सो इंडिया में भी यही चाहिए बाहर भी सबको यही चाहिए सो यही स्ट्रैटेजी यूज करो आई होप देर आर फ्यू रियलिटी शोज जो पता है नाउ डेज सिंगिंग डांसिंग और उसके पहले एक वीडियो दिखाते हैं कि रिक्शा वाला का बेटा है या बेटी है या गांव में है इसका बेटा बेटी है बहुत और काफी चलता है अभी आजकल राइट सो reason of showing those things I respect them I'm not saying but the reason they keep on showing same stories is just because they get good TRP.
Yeah, thank you, Sunny. That was really. I would like to, next time I would introduce myself as that one. as in that.
Do that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Do this in the interviews as well, guys. Whenever you're going for a job, interviews में हम क्या बोलते हैं? Sir, my name is this, और मेरा मैं ये करता हूँ. I know this software. There are 1,000 people who know this software. Why they should hire you? You should say that, like, if you are setting a space company, or let's say not space company, automobile company, you should sit and you should put your vision as well, right? So you should represent yourself as a brand and not as a general employee. You sit there and say, hello sir, I am Ayush. I can really see that the cars which are right now running in India are not so safe. My life vision is to make them safer, and I want to implement this. And through your platform, I think I can achieve this goal. You are a brand. Company needs you. Okay, so keep that in mind, and introduce yourself every time.
I have a question.
Yeah, please. Sir.
So this is on the content side of your startup. So let's say that you start with, let's say when you started, of course there are already established companies that are working on products that have a proper research and development section, and you are also learning as you're going in your startup ahead. So how do you cope up with the feeling of not being good enough just yet?
Okay. Uh, I don't know. So this is a very good question, to be honest. Like, basically, I can compare this with the question that the fear of starting late. We think that we started late, and then but you know, there's a benefit of this. The benefit is, the upcoming generations. I'm not just talking about the generations by the age, but the entrepreneurial generation. They are very smart, and why that is just because of one thing, which is called they don't know how to get habituated with the thing. I'll tell you a story. There was an Apple employee, and he was sitting in the living hall, and his daughter came and asked, what you doing? So he replied that I'm reading newspaper. Can you help me out by just going out and check the mailbox? What is there in our mailbox? Now his daughter, she replied, she said that, Dad, why need we need to go out and check the mailbox? Why can't mailbox tell us what's there inside it? Why she asked this question? Because she was not habituated with the process of going out and checking the mailbox, right? So we get habituated with a lot of things. Now what happened is, and that is what happened with NASA. They were habituated by for throwing rockets into ocean, but Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, they came, they started reusing them. And you might have noticed Apollo astronauts, they were against this idea, and they said this is never going to be possible. Why? Because they were also habituated in this for throwing rockets. So when you're starting late, you have got an advantage of one thing, that is you have to build your processes right from beginning, but those people have already defined process and they cannot disturb them. If they disturb, they will have to put a lot of investment. They have to take a lot of permissions from different hierarchies that they have set in their companies, and that would take a long time. But you have just started, you have to build everything from the beginning. So whatever thing you are going to build is going to be based on the current and the future generation, right? So that's a benefit you have got over them.
That's a good way to look at it.
Thank you.
Sir, who always inspired you? Like, there will be so many who would discourage when we step out of a safe zone in the beginning. So, what still motivated you?
So first thing, like, I this is again a quote by Elon Musk, and it's not that I'm a fan of Elon Musk, but he sometimes speaks things, sensible things. So he said that if you need someone to motivate you, then that means you are not doing the work that you love to do. And not looking for the motivation from the external sources, but yeah, I really get inspired by the actions which are the actions of others. I am connected to many people on social media, especially they are students right now, and I see that if like being into a college, they are doing a lot of stuff at one go. I can see they are connected with few clubs. Uh, they are also helping people who like whose family were actually, they're helping families whose family member was going through the this COVID-19 situation. So I could see there were students who are actually having NGOs who are training or teaching or providing education to students in NGOs. So these are the things which inspires me a lot, and that also ignites some ideas in my mind. And uh, other than that, there are a few people on this planet, and they have inspired everyone. We know Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam sir, we have Ratan Tata, then we have many people who are inspiration. So there's no one particular source, but yeah, I like to know more and more about them and their work. Yep. Any questions? I hope you guys are enjoying. Okay. नहीं अभी तो हाँ होगा, फिर ऐसा नहीं बोल रहा कि दाढ़ी वाला आया था कुछ भी बोल के चला गया. Yep. No question.
If I may add on to just what you said,
Yeah, please.
like you said that you take inspiration from students and people around you. I think that is the most important thing, because if you keep a poster of an idol in front of you, they can maybe tell you, okay, this is the level I want to reach. But the journey, how you reach to that level, is by looking at every other people and how they're doing around you, how they keep up with everything every day.
Very true, very true. And that is why what I always say is, you have to keep a very, uh, you know, uh, you should be keen about your network on social media, and even when you are there offline with your friends. Uh, to whomsoever you get connected, you should think of one thing: whether they are ethical, whether they are, really passionate about whatever industry they are working in. Get connected with such people. It's not that you want to be a scientist, so you should get connected only with scientists. You can get connected to a dancer as well, but that dancer should be really passionate with whatever things they're doing in their domain. And that is what I also do. I'm very keen about my network. I'm an extrovert right now, but still I don't get like open with everyone. I really ensure that whomsoever we get connected, we should learn something from them, or we should teach something to them. Yeah. But ethics and principles, they should never compromise on. Very important. Yep. Others, there are only few people who ask questions. What about others? Even if you are an introvert, you can ask questions. Don't worry. I used to be an introvert. I know how it feels, right? So don't worry. No one will judge you. So even if you have very basic question like what is a startup or anything you want to know, you can ask. It's fine. Completely fine. I think there are no more questions.
I think that's the end of the questions. So a few words before we conclude.
Okay. So I'll just share, 4 tools which were shared by Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam sir, and I share it with everyone. So first one is, he always believed that every student in our country and in this world should have dream. So I really hope you invest a lot of time in figuring out whatever things you want to do in your life, because when you know where you want to go, you will save a lot of time and energy that you can invest, and you can take uh, and you can achieve it. How you can get to know is how whether you are achieving. So what this is an activity we do very often in our team. Write down your routine on a page. On the other side, write your dream, and find out how much time you are investing into the activities which is taking your step closer towards the dream. If it is less than 4 hours, you really need to work on your routine. So do that activity. Okay. Second, Abdul Kalam sir always used to believe in the concept of hard work. So he used to say that you should do hard work with devotion. Now we youths have got a concept of smart work. Now again, to do smart work, you need to become smart. To become smart, you need to have experience. To have experience, you need to work really hard for years and years. When you work on something for years and years, you actually get to know how it works just by looking. Or I got an opportunity to talk to Sneha Sharma. She's an F4 racer in our country, female racer, fastest female racer. And she told me that she, when just touches the engine of the car, she'll get to know what errors are there in the engine just by touching, just because she have the experience. Right? Third, perseverance. We all know that failures, you have to get immune by the failures, right? And that is what we do at Star. We are immune by the failures. Even if we fail, you won't see, you'll never see us crying, or that might happen when the rocket explodes, because we are emotionally attached to the rockets, but not scared of failures. So, we are emotionally attached to the products that we have built. So something goes wrong, we get tears in our eyes, but that's fine. But we never scared of taking any bold steps. We're never scared of trying out something which is new. So, because we are immune to the failure. So you will become immune once you keep, going through it. Now, one thing I would like to ask is, what according to you is a success and failure? Now, this is a very broad topic, but still, what according to you is a success and what according to you is a failure? A very simple definition you can give. Anything you have in your mind.
May I?
Yeah, please.
Personally, I see success is when I have learned something from the experience, something that I can take forward to the next time I come into that same enterprise.
Yeah.
While failure to me is when I fail to see the real picture, while I am still lost as to where I made a mistake or where I should have done better. So that for me is a failure, while success is learning something that helps me the next time.
Okay, I'm really impressed by the definition of success. That is what we have done at Star. What we believe is, whenever we do anything or we take any task, even if we complete it, but if we don't learn anything new from it, it's a failure for us. But if we select a project or a mission and if we work on it, if we don't complete it, but even if it, what we call, never got launched, but if we learn something new, it's a big success for us. So we believe in that, defining success and failure based on your learning experiences. Try it out; it would definitely help. Okay, otherwise you can define things on your own. So whatever things I've told, don't trust me for all those things, or don't say that if I'll do all this, I'll become successful, because even I have not been successful, right? So I'm just sharing my experiences here, right? No standard rules for becoming successful. The last thing, that is what I call the $1 million question, and that have helped me out in living a very happy life in the industry. Whenever we see Facebook, we remember Mark Zuckerberg. Whenever we see Apple, we remember Steve Jobs. Whenever we see Microsoft, we remember Bill Gates. Whenever we see missiles, we remember Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam sir. Every youth should ask themselves one question, and that is what I call the $1 million question: what you will be remembered for. So with this, I end. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and I hope you guys enjoyed Q&A.
Yes, sir. Heartfelt thank you for your valuable time and words for us. I'm sure that it truly helped us to understand the process of setting up a business and inspired us to grab the opportunities to become successful entrepreneurs.